So, Janelle,
Yes.
morning,
Morning.
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 How is home? Kwani utaamka?
Nimeamka.
Haya bana, mimi nasikia kama bado umelala.
Hapana.
Janelle.
Yes.
Haya, how is home? How is home?
It's fine.
Fine. How is the weather? Is it still cold?
Yes.
It's cold.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, welcome to our biology lesson.
Thank
Aya,
you.
then you have Wahome Cynthia. Okay,
Yes.
okay. Morning.
Morning. Morning.
How is home?
Fine.
How is home?
Very fine.
It's fine.
Yes.
Kuna baridi, kuna joto. Kuna baridi, kuna joto ama?
Na joto.
Kuna joto. Okay. Sasa so karibu kwa lesson, our lesson for biology today. And we are going to start from where we left yesterday. We had just introduced the subtopic nutrition in plants, and we started at a point where we defined what is nutrition. So Wahome, Cynthia?
Yes. Yes.
I would like to ask you to remind us, how did you define nutrition yesterday?
It is the process. It is the process in which
I'm here, I'm listening, I'm waiting. Wahome? Cynthia? Cynthia Wahome?
it is the process in which living organisms obtain nutrients.
Obtain and utilize them, not just obtain and utilize them. Good. And we said we also have modes of nutrition. We have modes of nutrition, and there are two modes, that is autotrophism and heterotrophism. And I still define what we mean by autotrophism and heterotrophism. Now, the modes simply is the ways in which the organisms obtain the nutrients. Now, these ways, it depends on the kind of an organism. You see, there are these organisms, for example, most plants, they are going to make their own food. That is their mode of nutrition. Their animals, most of them, they are going to obtain already made food, and they obtain them from, for example, the plants. That is another mode now of the animal. So we say we have autotrophism, which is the mode of nutrition in which the organisms are able to make their own food using some simple substances. For example, carbon dioxide, water, and sometimes in the presence of sunlight as well as the chlorophyll. So these organisms that are able to make their own food, they include some bacteria, we had algae, and plants. And of course, the green plants, that is. Then we had heterotrophism as the other mode of nutrition. And we said it is the mode of nutrition in which organisms are able to make, to obtain already made food. And these organisms, they are like the animals. We have fungi, we have protozoa, and as well as some bacteria. We went ahead and said that from autotrophism, we have autotrophs. And these autotrophs, it is simply these organisms that make their own food from the simple substances, of course, that you've said. From heterotrophism, again, we have heterotrophs. And these heterotrophs, they are the organisms that are able to obtain complex food substances, mostly from the plants. And that is why I think that is where we stopped yesterday. So we are going to start from there, and then we see how far we can go for in our today's lesson. But before then, I can see Michelle Nyaga has joined us. Michelle?
Yes.
Morning.
Morning.
How is your morning today?
Fine.
How is your morning? Fine.
It's
Umeamka
okay.
lakini?
Yes.
Umeamka?
Yes.
Umeshakunywa kiamsha kinywa?
Yes.
Sawa. So welcome. Then we have Mary Nanchama. Mary Nanchama. Mary.
Yes.
Mary Nanchama. Morning.
Morning.
Hi. Sikuski. Morning.
Morning.
Okay, welcome to our class. So, so among the two modes of nutrition, we are going to start with autotrophism. And maybe just to repeat, because now it is a repeat, it is that mode of nutrition that involves organisms making their own food substances from simple substances like carbon dioxide, like water in the presence of sunlight, and chlorophyll. That is what we mean by autotrophism. And you say these organisms that do so, they are known as autotrophs. Now, enough of the definition and all that. So I want us to look at, now that we've been talking about these organisms, or it is that mode of nutrition in which organisms make their own food. Now, how do they make their own food? There is the process in which green plants, they make their own food, and that process is what we call photosynthesis. Now, photosynthesis, it is that process in which green plants, although even some, you'll also realize that some bacteria are in there, we also have the algae, they make their own food using simple substances, the ones we are talking about. Carbon dioxide in the water, they're usually the raw materials in presence of what we call sunlight, as well as, or light energy, mostly from the sun, as well as chlorophyll, and in return, they give us oxygen and any carbohydrate or the glucose, such that in the process of photosynthesis, we usually have carbon dioxide they are the raw materials in the presence of sunlight or the light energy. And the chlorophyll to give us oxygen as well as glucose. Now, this is the whole process. The word diffusion representing the process in which most organisms, that is the plants, make their own food. So photosynthesis, from the word photo, it means light. That means this is the process in which plant, if it is the plant, if it is the bacteria, if it is the algae, they have to make their own food when there is the presence of light or sunlight, to be very more specific. Otherwise, at night, we cannot have the process of photosynthesis taking place because we do not have sunlight, or the sunlight at night we don't have. Even if you have the light from the moon, that is not what we need. We require the light energy from the sun. So at night, food cannot be made by these organisms that are able to make their own food. So that is photosynthesis. We also have another process that we call chemosynthesis. Now, this is the process in which you realize that bacteria, the non-green plants, they make their own food, but now they do not obtain the light energy from sunlight. What they do, they obtain the energy from the chemical reactions, and hence the word chemosynthesis. So chemosynthesis, simply, it is the process in which the non-green plants, the some bacteria, they make their own food using the energy from chemical reaction. So the main point here, or the main difference between photosynthesis and chemosynthesis, is where each of the process is obtaining the energy. For the photosynthesis, we've said that the energy, the light energy, will be obtained from the sun. That is why it has to take place during the day. For the chemosynthesis, the energy has to be obtained from the chemical reactions. You see something like a bacteria, which you said it also, some of them, they make their own food. Bacteria is more of an animal other than a plant. So you see, an animal doesn't even have the green coloring matter to start with. So it cannot process its own food using photosynthesis. Again, no, not the whole thing about not being a plant. Even if it obtains the energy from the light, it may not use it to make its own food. So that is it. So we have photosynthesis, we have chemosynthesis, and I hope now, in case you are asked in future or in an exam or in a quiz to distinguish between photosynthesis and chemosynthesis, you will be able to do so. Now, because most plants, okay, as much as I talk about some bacteria making their own food, this issue of making food will mostly be found with most of the plants. Now, these plants, they make their own food. Yesterday, we agreed that they make their own food not only to be used by other animals or even other plants for that matter, but also themselves, they require that food. It's very healthy for them because it will enable, the food will enable them to grow, it will repair their own tissues, and so on and so forth. Now, the whole thing about being able to make their food and, of course, providing it to most of the animals, they make the plants to be known as producers. So plants are producers, and I've said it is because they are responsible for making their own food, and then this food will be mostly used by other organisms, mostly the animals, for the growth and all that. Now, on the other hand, the animals that now take in the food from the given plants, they are known as consumers. So they are known as consumers, the plant, the animals, you included, because you usually feed on already made food, and mostly this already made food is from those given plants. And that is just part of the introduction of the autotrophism. So up to that point, how many are we together? Cynthia?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Dorcas,
Yes,
morning.
morning.
Yeah, I can see you joined us. Kwani umekasirika asubuhi? You sound too low. Ama bado hujatoka kwa kitanda?
Nimetoka.
Haya. So we have Janelle.
Yes.
Janelle.
Yes.
Tuko pamoja up to that point.
Yes.
Okay. Then Michelle.
Yes.
Are we together?
Yes.
So now, okay, maybe before we wind up on the introduction to autotrophism, I would like to talk about something here. You see, anytime we have the process of photosynthesis, carbon dioxide is used by that given plant. And then in return, they give out the oxygen. Now, this oxygen is very important in that it will go and it will be used up somewhere else, maybe by the animals in the process of respiration. Now, so now in return, as respiration now takes in oxygen, carbon dioxide is again produced. So, okay, let's start with photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, the organisms that are making their own food, they take in carbon dioxide, they give out oxygen. On the other hand, that oxygen that is produced during photosynthesis, it is used up by other organisms in the process of respiration. Now, respiration will use oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. So now that cycle between photosynthesis or the two processes, photosynthesis and respiration, they help to maintain a balance of the two gases in the atmosphere. They help to maintain a balance such that you are not going to have too much of oxygen being released and again maybe too much of carbon dioxide. So we have a balance in that we have those processes that are alternating and using the different gases. So that is it. So from there, I would like us to now look at the external structure of a leaf, and from it, I want us also to deduce the differences between a monocot and a dicot. So first of all, let us have the diagrams representing a dicot and a monocot. So we have a monocot leaf. So, So up here we have what we call the leaf apex. We have leaf margin. We have the lamina, and we have parallel. And then here we have what we call the leaf sheath. The leaf sheath. On the other hand, parabola or a dipole leaf, we're going to have something like this.
Mam, kwani ule mtu ulikuwa unamjua? Mwenye alikuwa anakusalimia jana?
Ati nini? Yes? Mary?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Are you the one who's saying excuse me? Are you the one who's saying excuse me?
No.
Okay. Haya.
Anafikiria kana namwambia excuse. Ati ndizi. Mimi nimefikiria ni Uncle Gideon amesimama hivyo. Oh. Sasa umenunulia kitu. Umenunulia kitu cha kwa pesa. Kwani wewe nimekuwa
Now, those are the two leaves representing monocot and the dipole leaf. Now, from the two, in addition to any other information you have, I want us to come up with the differences between a monocot and a dipole. Differences between the two. Now, Jacqueline.
Yes.
Morning.
Yes. Morning.
Morning. Okay.
Morning.
So, it's okay. Dorcas.
Yes.
Dorcas.
Yes.
I want you to give us a difference. I want you to give us one difference between a monocot and a dipole.
The monocot leaf leaf has parallel veins, while dipole leaves have veins.
Has network veins. Yeah. She's saying monocot, there is the presence of parallel veins. While in the diplots, the network wings. That's correct. Higher, let's go to Cynthia. Cynthia.
Yes.
Another difference, not necessarily from the list, but just from a monocot and a dicot that you know. Haya, Cindy amepotea. Haya, Janelle.
Yes.
Haya, difference between a monocot and a dicot, Janelle. Janelle. Cynthia.
Yes, teacher.
Cynthia.
I have an idea.
A difference.
Yes.
Haya, tupatie.
The dicot leaf has a it's like his leaf margin are scattered everywhere, while the leaf margin of the monocot is straight.
Okay, that's not a difference. You see, the leaf margin ni edge, sindio?
Yeah.
Sindio?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we talk about, let me help you. You talk about the dicot has got a petiole. Well, this one, instead of a petiole, it usually have a modified stem that we call the leaf sheath. So there is the presence of petiole, petioles. Then this the other one, there is the presence of leaf sheath, or you can talk about the stem is modified to a leaf sheath, and then the stem is modified to a petiole. Janelle?
Yes.
Janelle?
Dicot has broad leaves. The monocot has narrow leaves.
Yes, good. A dicot has broad leaves. Broad leaves. A monocot has got narrow leaves. Good. Hi, any other difference? We have who? Michelle. Michelle. Another difference. Na nimesema si necessarily from the leaf, but as long as it is a monocot plant and a dicot plant. So you can even consider the roots. Give me a difference. Michelle, just try, and then I'll help you out. It's very easy. Able to pay in terms of roots, to pay roots difference kati ya roots za monocot na dicot. Haya, ngoja tuulize Dorcas atusaidie. Dorcas?
Yes.
Dorcas, haya, tupatie difference in terms of roots.
Dicot has a taproot while monocot has a fibrous root.
Yes, the dicot, they usually have a taproot system, The monocot normally has the fibrous root system. The space is not enough, I would have shown you, but I will do so later. Then, any other difference maybe from Janelle? Janelle, do you have another difference?
No.
Kunayo moja. Cynthia, kuna difference ingine?
I'm checking.
You're checking, okay. Then Jacqueline. 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 Okay. So there is one more difference.
There is.
That is in terms of a midrib.
And midrib and
the lamina.
And the other one does not have a rib, middle rib.
A midrib, good. Janelle?
Yes?
Janelle?
Midrib.
Lamina is in the two. The lamina is in the two. Hakuna yenye haina lamina. You see, lamina is just that surface. The surface is what you call lamina. So it is in the two. The margin is also in the two. Ziko. The leaf apex as well. It is. Ni sawa, umeona hivyo?
But see, one has a large lamina and the other one doesn't have a large one.
Hapana. Sasa hiyo ya maneno ya large tutaipata unless it fall under the broad leaves and the narrow leaves. Sawa sawa, Janelle?
Yes.
Juu nimesema lamina ndio two surface. So the other one is on the midrib, like Pahome has said. It is very evident. If you look at our dicot, I don't know whether it's very clear with every one of you, but it is, you can be able to see that we have a midrib. This line that is running from the leaf apex going towards the leaf petiole. So there is the presence of midrib. This one lacks the midrib. It lacks the midrib. Now, and that is it. Up to, okay, at our level, what we need to know is about those differences. But as we proceed on in Form 3, you have classification 2, a topic by the name classification 2. Hapo, you will find that there are so many differences between a monocot and a dicot, even in terms of the floral parts and all that. So, but up to this point, that is enough for us. So we have one difference that is very evident, and you should not forget it, about the parallel veins. They will always be present in a monocot leaf, these parallel veins. Well, in the dicot, we have what you call the network veins. The other thing you should not forget is about the root system. We have the fibrous root system in the monocot leaf, and the dicot, in the dicot, you have the taproot system. Now, the fibrous root system in a can, say for example, that is our ground surface. This is what you call fibrous root system. For the taproot, it is something like this. It is something like that. Say for example, that is a ground surface. So this is the taproot. That is the other difference. So at least, even if you have to forget the others, never forget about the leaf veins and the issue of the fibrous root system and taproot system. The other thing is that we have a modified stem that we call a leaf sheath. So we don't have a petiole in the monocot leaf. We have the leaf sheath, and we're going to see it. While in a petiole, in a dicot, we have a petiole, the place that you usually hold onto when you have a leaf. Then you have, this one normally has got narrow leaves compared to the dicot. The dicot usually has got a very broad leaf surface. Then the other one is that we do not have a midrib in monocot. but in dicot, the midrib is very much present. And that is it on the differences between a monocot and a dicot, not necessarily a monocot leaf, but a monocot and a dicot. Now, there was a reason why I showed you the external parts of a leaf, because later or now what you're supposed to look at is the internal structure of a leaf. So whatever we have on board is our leaves externally, be it the monocot, be it the dicot, and you can be able to see. And I know even out there at home or wherever you've ever seen this part that you're talking about, very much evident in leaves. But you still have got other internal parts that you're supposed to look at in nutrition in plants, and they are usually very, very important. Mostly to do with, they usually help mostly with the issue of photosynthesis and so on. So maybe we can list those parts.
Wait.
You are drawing?
No.
Janelle, what are you saying?
I'm writing down the differences.
So write them then. And then you're done, please tell us that you're done.
I'm done.
Okay, so we can wrap now. Wahome, are you done also?
Yes.
See? Okay. Although I'm also not going to write the whole code, I only need a part of it. So I was saying, maybe even due to time, we may not be able to discuss the internal parts, but what I want us to do is just list them, list those internal parts. So the internal parts of our leaf, that is what I want us to look at, to list the parts. Then we can start from there to internal parts. We have what we call, number one, the cuticle. We have the cuticle. We have the epidermis. We have the epidermis. We have the epidermis. We have the spongy mesophyll layer. We have spongy mesophyll layer. We have the blood cells. We have the palisade cells. We have the palisade cells, and we also have the leaf veins. Sometimes they run internally. Or okay, they are from, even if you see them on the surface, they usually originate from down there. So these are the main parts of internal parts of a leaf that you're supposed to look at your level. Now, what I want you to do, because our time cannot allow us to discuss what they are and their function, I want you to do, before we meet maybe next week, you should have checked on them. try to look at the importance or the functions of the same, that is the internal parts of a leaf. And also there's the diagram for those ones with the KLB. There's a diagram showing these structures or where they are situated internally in a leaf. Try to look at them so that when we are talking about like palisades cells being close, sparsely arranged, creating air spaces, you will be able to see that. So with the contours, Akina Janelle, Nambura, Akina Cynthia, and the others, I know this is not a new thing, but with maybe the form ones, it may be the first time that they are hearing about this. But all in all, try to do something, try to check on the same. If you can be able to access any book, actually, there's no book you cannot be able to find such. Try to look at that. And then when we come, it will be very easy to discuss and then very easy for you also to understand. So that marks the end of our today's session. Cynthia, do you have a question?
No.
Dorcas, do you have a question?
No.
Then we have Janelle. Kuna swali? Janelle? Okay, Michelle?
Yes.
Michelle? Any question?
Yes. No.
Any question?
No.
Okay, so why don't we meet in our next lesson and enjoy the rest of your day?
You too.
Bye.